It's what we all desire. The space in life that we have of freedom is between our current reality and our boundaries. Boundaries usually appear as mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. They come in the form of feelings and emotions like fear, doubt, shame, guilt, embarrassment, anger, frustration, rage, resentment, scarcity, and stress. So how are we going to go forward in all the areas of our life, breaking boundaries? Well, through a lot of self-awareness, self-experience, and some miles behind me, I've come to develop the 5 C's for breaking boundaries. We will see that these 5 C's are applicable in so many life experiences. The first is clarity. It's important that as we embark on our journeys of life, that we are clear of where we are in our current reality and where we want to be in the future. Commitment. We have to make a conscious choice and decide that we're going to go forward. The root of the word, the Latin root of the word decide comes from the definition to cut away. That means we leave other things behind and we commit to this one idea or purpose. Certainty. Courage. We need to overcome big boundaries in life and challenges. We need to muster up significant amounts of courage. Internal certainty. No matter how big the boundaries are, we will need to find some sort of internal peace and certainty in the process. Finally, consistency. No matter how small, how big, day in and day out, we need to be consistent in what we're doing to break our boundaries. It was 9th grade, second semester, early 1990. And for the previous 2.5 years, I had pretty much spent thinking primarily of just one thing: skateboarding. Every day after school, me and my neighbor, my best friend, would come home and do homework and skate until dinner time, perfecting our moves, building street ramps, and being part of the first wave of the skate scene in Costa Rica where we live. But my clarity was clear. In the coming months, I'd be moving to Miami to a new life. And me and my friends saw our skating passion inevitably fizzling out. It wasn't that we didn't want to skate anymore, it was just that we couldn't be doing it together like we always had. And our friendship ran deeper than the passion for skating. So we knew we had to make a decision. So one fine March afternoon, as the sun was setting, we decided to pact. We decided to hang up our boards, our passion, and our lifestyle cold turkey. Never to skate actively again. As we began telling people, nobody believed us. They said, "That's impossible, that's all you guys do." My wall was lined with skate cutouts and posters. My wardrobe was that of a Thrasher skate rack. Pretty horrible, really, but it was cool at the time. And we decided to pivot our passions from one sport to another. A sport that we knew we could enjoy independently, at distance from each other as friends, and for years going into the future. And that sport was basketball. Today, I enjoy basketball. I play every week. I play with my 2 sons, and it's a space for us to grow, learn, share, and have fun together. Now, even when I see my best friend still from 6th grade, today, we talk about skating, basketball, and dozens of other passions we have together. Sometimes the clarity of life gets to be clear. The fact that we're going on a path, and if we don't change that path, we're going to have results that probably aren't going to be that great. Health is one of those. For the most part, my life has been very active, always playing sports. But there's been periods where I've had a sedentary life. I've abused food, alcohol, smoking, and at times I looked like that. The guy on the left is about 25 years old. The guy on the right, 30 years old. He's actually having a midnight snack after celebrating his engagement to his beautiful wife. Who would want to marry that guy? Let's just say my wife is a visionary. Right, Emma? Well, it was clear that that path wasn't going to be sustainable. So we decided together to make important changes in our lives. And we went together to find out, learn, grow, and be able to implement and integrate into our lives new ways of being healthy together. This is a picture of us. I don't know how well you can see it, but probably at the peak of our energy levels after an extended retreat where we learned how to apply new methods of being healthy into our lives for ourselves and for our family. Today, exercise is an integral part of my morning routine, and it's clear it will always be. To break boundaries, we need to have clarity, to know exactly where we are today and where we're going tomorrow. For many years, I had a nagging desire and dream inside, and that was to be able to journal every single night. I did it as a kid at months at a time, and as an adult I tried and off and on, and never really stuck as a habit. Until I joined a mastermind group, and that mastermind group required me to log and journal every single day. And for the most part, I would log important activities done, achievements, but especially the lessons extracted from life that day. The emotions I was living in that moment. As the 21 days passed and I successfully completed 21 straight days of journaling, I silently celebrated. Why? Not because the mastermind required me to keep on journaling, but because I had broken that mythological 21-day barrier of creating a new habit. That was January 2016. For over 3.5 years now, I've journaled every single day. And when we break boundaries and build new constructive habits, that leads us to create the realization of other dreams that we have. Ever since I began reading as a child, I knew that someday I would write my own book. And last year I was finally able to publish my first book based on my life philosophy called Legacy. I would have never been able to finish that book if I would have never started journaling. So to break boundaries, we need to make a commitment, a promise to ourselves that that is going to be our significant purpose as we move forward. I had been 1 year in my new school and city, and I was depressed. I would come home after school every day, fall asleep, wake up at dinner time, and then do homework. I have left a life behind in Costa Rica and now living in Miami, and I didn't really enjoy it. I found myself one Saturday morning, August, right before my junior year, and I was facing another year of high school with doubting myself, few friends, and a lousy social life. The last thing I wanted to do was go through another year of being depressed. So, for 2 hours, I stared at this telephone in my room, thinking, am I going to do it or not? That afternoon was the first football game of the season right before school started. Everyone went to this football game. I didn't have a car, I didn't have a license, and I didn't have a group of friends calling me to go. So I rummaged through a notebook and I found the number of my buddy Nick. I knew Nick had a car. Hey Nick, how are you? How was your summer? Awesome. Hey listen, you want to go to the game today? He said, yeah, sure. I said, great, come and pick me up. I had never invited myself pretty much anywhere. But I decided that if I didn't do it then, things would just stay the same. Did I mention Nick lived 20 miles from my house and only 2 miles from the school? Nick drove over 40 miles that day for me. I'll never forget that act of service that he gave me. Because I picked up the phone that day, I changed my social life in my high school years for my remaining 2 years. And I made the most of it. Since then, every time I've had to network, cold call, or present myself to someone I've never known, or even stand up here, I just remember the courage I mustered to pick up that phone and call Nick that day. Many boundaries are around fear. Fear of not being loved, fear of not being good enough, fear of having your ego and identities crumble around you. It's early 2017 and I find myself waking up with a hole in my stomach in a fetal position, many times crying into my pillow. I'm having significant failure in my distribution business and I don't want to face the world. I've already conceded one market and I'm facing the crude reality of having to potentially close 2 more countries. I didn't want to face the music of critics, suppliers, the marketplace, and even my wife giving me a big "I told you so." That isn't anywhere I want it to be. But as the clarity of my plan of execution started coming clear, I knew I had to make some tough decisions. Letting go dozens of employees and really facing the fact of temporary failure was tough. But I made the tough decisions, and months later, I was able to turn my company around and make it profitable again. But in the process, I was full of fear. Why? Because I had this part of this ego of mine and this identity of mine of being a successful entrepreneur completely falling around me. But what I found in the process was priceless. What I found in that naked and broken man was my truth. The truth that I am a child of God. And from that truth and that strength, I was able to rebuild myself from the inside out, rather than defining myself from the outside in. Let's just say that truth will never be able to be taken away from me ever again. So as we go forward in life and we break boundaries, understand there will be challenges that break you in the process. It is important for us to die every single day to wake up tomorrow for a new rebirth. Let's find our internal certainty today. So I have 3 rambunctious, beautiful children. And sometimes their behavior and my expectations of them simply do not match. And they sometimes forget that there's a time and a place for everything. I'm sure this never happened to any of you, right? And I have to remind them sometimes that, parents set the rules. And I'll admit it. For some years at a time, I laid a rough hand on my children. I physically spanked them. And it was automatic. It was automatic when that happened. Their rebellion would grow, their resentment would cook, and I just didn't feel right. And so I started investigating and searching for new parenting techniques, and I found parenting by questioning, which was great. But then it was just missing that final element, which was the consequence. And so I found something that has been a great deterrent for all involved, and that is the plank position. The plank position is wonderful. Well, only if you really like to sweat, be uncomfortable, or you're working out. Because really, no other time we want to be in the plank position. I figure, I've come to realize minutes is their limit where they start breaking form. I'm fairly lenient on their form, but if they touch the ground, you know that the clock has to start over again. But there's other positive byproducts of the plank position. Now, instead of me getting triggered and raising my voice and physically touching them, I just raise a hand and I start counting the minutes that they're going to be there. They understand that. They're clear on the consequence of their misbehavior. And they get strong physically. And they get to do it together when there's collective misbehavior. So, consistency is key because as leaders, we have so many roles to fill. And we are being watched. So if we're not consistent in the messages that we're giving to the people around us, and to the spaces, and to ourselves, then it's going to be extremely difficult for us to break boundaries. So I've gone through the 5 C's of breaking boundaries. The first 2, clarity and commitment, are required for you to embark on your journey. The next 2, courage and certainty, will be required when the challenges are so great and you doubt yourself the most. And finally, consistency is required day in and day out to show up and be your best. So what boundaries are you going to break today? Where do you need to muster up the courage to ask for it? My desire for you is that you build up your strength in being able to break your boundaries. The more you break boundaries today, the stronger your legacy tomorrow. Thank you very much.